What is up, guys? Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com, and again we have another C++ game using Unreal Engine, and this time it's the old arcade classic called Pac-Man. We already know the game, we all grew up with the game, except if you're very young. If you are young, well, kudos to you, my friend. But anyways, I know you hate listening to me, yada yada yada. Let me just preview the game that we are going to create. So over here, as you can see, we have the classic Pac-Man level. If I hit the play button, here we are with our Pac-Man. We have the enemy following us. We can eat all of these fruits, or however you want to call them, these dots. And you can hear the sound effect that we have when we eat them, and of course the enemy can also kill us. Now what I want to show you is at the top right corner we have one of these power-ups, you see, and they can make us run or go faster. So we have that feature, as you can already see. We also have these teleports on the sides, and you see the enemy caught me and I have died and the level will restart. Now I wanted to show you the teleports. We have the teleports on the side, so we have the one on the left, and when we go here he will teleport us over here to the right. And vice versa, if we go on this teleport to the right, he will teleport us to this one to the left. And we're going to see how we are going to create all of this using C++ and a little bit combination with blueprints. So I believe this is the first course where I'm going to utilize blueprints with C++, maybe 70% of C++ and 30% of blueprints is used in this course where we are going to create this cool game. And of course you will get your own assignments where I'm going to challenge you how to do certain things, and that way you will test your knowledge. So I don't want to stall anymore. I know you are angry at me right now because you're listening to, oh teacher, can you finish it? Okay, I'm gonna finish it, okay my friend. So yeah, Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com. I will see you guys in the next video. What is up, guys? Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com, and as you already know, in the first video we create a project, we import the assets, so it's no different in this video. So you're going to click on your Unreal Engine icon, then you will open this Unreal Engine project browser, and what you're going to do is you're going to click on here new project, and from blueprint over here you're going to click on C++, select the basic code, console desktop, maximum quality, no starter content, that is totally fine. Over here you're going to select the folder where you're going to store your project, and this is the name of the project that you're going to give. I gave mine Pac-Man, so you can give your, I don't know, Carl, Kenny, whatever, and then click on create project. And of course you know the process, you will need to wait a moment or two until Unreal Engine compiles everything and does its job, yada yada yada. You know how it goes. So the next step for us is over here in the content, we are going to right click and we're going to click here, show in Explorer. So show in Explorer, and it is going to open this window for us. So again, it's right click on the content and you click on show Explorer and it will open that window, this one right here. Now we're gonna go in the assets folder over here, and we have the Pac-Man and the starter content. So copy both, select them first, Control C to copy them, or right click and copy. And you can download these assets along with the complete project. Link for that will be below this video. So below the video you will see a link to download these assets. Now let's go back here inside of this folder, the content one that we have opened by right clicking over here. So here is where we are going to right click and paste these, and you will see it will paste them right now. And when it does, we are going to go back here in Unreal Engine, and here at the bottom right you will notice this. It says 8 changes to source content blah 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 has been detected. Do you want to import? Yes, we do. Click on import. So click on import and wait for that to be finished, and there you go. Now before we end this video, and I want to make it short because I just want to, you know, create the project, import the assets, yada yada yada. So let's go over here in the Pac-Man, and here we have something called levels, or the folder called levels. Inside of that folder we have level 1, so double click on that and this is going to be our first level. Now I took the liberty to prepare this for you because as you see, these are just regular bricks that I have put together, as you can see over here, and you can find them here under blueprints. So you have the tick wall, we have the tin wall, we have the plane, and you can play with that. So you can, you see, just move them left and right, but they are compiled together to form this level. And as I said, it will be tedious for you to watch me to, you know, move all of this, and there is no need to. You can just go online, type Pac-Man level, and then watch the level or how it looks like, and then use these bricks or whatever, how you want to call them, to create that level. So as I said, I took the liberty to prepare this because we will not learn anything just by rearranging these actors inside of our game. So it's simply positioning them to form this level, resizing them, rescaling them. You get the point. So yeah. Fire here from Ausdies.com. In the next video, we're going to start building our Pac-Man. Until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Moving forward with our game, now we're going to create our Pac-Man, and that will start over here in our C++ classes. So inside, we're going to right-click and create a new C++ class. It's going to be, or inherit from, a pawn, and a pawn is an actor that can be possessed. So let's go here under next, and I am going to rename this bad boy to Pac-Man Pawn, like that. And I'm going to click on create the class so that we will create a class. And of course, we need to wait a moment or two for all of this to be compiled. You know how it goes. I hate it that it's this way, but what can we do? Now, I can cast a vote or something like that. What do you want me to do in between these stages when this is, and thank God it has finished, and I was just about to sing to you. So let's go here in our C# or in our Visual Studio. So here for our Pac-Man pawn.h file, we are going to declare the things that we need. Now, there is not that much that we are going to use, but over here, right below these public setup layer, blah, 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 I'm going to create protected. So here we're going to say protected, which means it will be only available inside of the class and within the classes that inherit this class. It will not be available outside of this class. And this one is going to be our bool frozen, which by default is going to be equal to true, but I'm going to set this as a U property, and it's going to be blueprint read only. Because we are going to allow our blueprint to read this, and we will see that in a moment why, or we will see when we do that. Here we are also going to create a public declaration, and for the public one, we're going to have void set direction, and over here I'm going to say constant f vector, and I'm going to call this one direction, like this. Now below we are going to create bool is frozen function, and this one is going to return is frozen. So over here we're going to say bool is frozen, and by the way we need to open close parentheses, and simply here we can say return frozen. So we can do that right here. We don't have to do that inside of our CPP file. Now below this one, I'm also going to create a U function like this, and this is going to be a blueprint. So blueprint callable, which means we will be able to call this inside of a blueprint, and it's going to be our void set frozen, and over here we're going to have our bool value. And over here, we can simply say something like frozen is equal to the value that we pass here as a parameter. And here we need to say semicolon to end the statement. And of course, we are also going to have one more private function, and this one is going to be a U function, and this is going to be for collision detection. So it's going to be our void on overlap begin, and it's only going to take two parameters. So a actor, which is a pointer, this is going to be our player actor or the Pac-Man actor, and another one is going to be a actor with a star, because again it's a pointer, and over here the C needs to be lowercase, and I'm going to call this one other actor. There you go. Now in order for us to compile this, I will need to right click here on set direction. I'm going to say quick actions and refactoring and implement that, and over here on overlap begin, I'm also going to right click quick actions and refactoring, and I'm going to say create definition for our overlap. There you go. Because if we don't create definition for our overlap begin, because we declare it to be as a U function, and we did the same thing for our, or actually here our set frozen is already declared, so we don't have to do that. But for our set direction, it's not mandatory, but for this one it is. If we don't do it, we will not be able to compile that. And here are our functions. So simply now we can Control Shift B to compile these bad boys. So we can compile them right now. And what we are going to do after this, we are going to go, you see, build has succeeded. Now, as I said, now we're going to go over here and inside of our Pac-Man, and here for the blueprints, actually I'm going to go in the content. And over here, I'm going to create my own blueprint folder. So over here, I'm going to say new folder, and I'm going to say blueprints. And inside of this bad boy, we are going to create our Pac-Man blueprint. So I'm going to right click. Let's go blueprint class. Now, I'm not going to select anyone from all of these that are available here by default. Instead, here for all classes, I'm going to simply click on the drop-down list and filter for Pac-Man. And here we go, Pac-Man pawn. Click on select, and I'm going to call this one Pac-Man underscore BP to create the Pac-Man blueprint. Now, what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to double-click the blueprint and open it. And the first thing that I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to click on add component. I'm going to add a floating pawn movement. There we go. So we have our floating pawn movement. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a sphere. And basically, it's going to be our static mesh. So filter here, click on add component and filter for static mesh. And I'm going to call this one sphere. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it here or click or drag it for it to be a default root object. Now, for this sphere, here on the drop down list, we're going to click on, and here we're going to filter for a sphere. Now, we don't have or we don't see that sphere. Now, what is the issue here? What am I doing? Teacher, you're confusing me. Just a moment. We are going to use the built-in sphere that we have that comes with the project. Now, in order to do that, we do need to go over here and where you have the view options. So you need to click on that, and over here you have this show engine content. So click on the view option and check the checkbox for show engine content. And over here, this is the engine content that we have, as you can see. So this, all of these here that we see. So now what we can do is we can go over here, and for the sphere, I can click on the drop down list and I can filter here for the sphere, and there you go. So we now have the sphere. And here it is, sphere. This is our sphere. Compile and save that. Now, first things first, for the sphere, I'm going to click here on this lock icon to lock it. You see over here, we're going to lock the lock icon, and I'm going to click here on the X and say 0.5 for the scale, which is going to change the scale for all three of these axes, because as you can see here, I have set the lock to be locked, which means when we change one scale, it will change the scale for all others. Now, the next step over here is I'm going to simply say here Pac-Man pawn, so we can filter for the material for the Pac-Man pawn that we already have. Now, going down over here for our collision. For the collision, now we are going to leave it as is, so it can be yes, and here block all dynamic, so we can leave that as is, as I already said. Now, the next step for us is to actually attach our Pac-Man. So we need to attach the Pac-Man, and the Pac-Man is going to be also a static mesh. So click on the sphere and click on add component and filter for static mesh. There you go. Now this is going to be our Pac-Man. Now for the Pac-Man, let me just zoom in here. We are going to go over here and we are going to filter for Pac-Man. So let's say here Pac-Man, and we want the Pac-Man open. Now we don't see our Pac-Man. I mean, we can see it here as a silhouette. You can see that. Now what we need to do to make our Pac-Man visible is that we need to go over here on the sphere and scroll down, and here visible, you see here for the rendering, I'm going to uncheck this visible, and now we see our Pac-Man. So there you go. Now we see our Pac-Man. Now going back to our Pac-Man, so let's go back, select our Pac-Man. We are going to change his scale. So going here, we're going to change the scale to 1.5 for all three of these. So we're going to change it for the X, Y, and Z. So make sure that the lock is checked before you do that. Now for our, actually we're not going to touch anything else. We're going to leave the collision as is. So we have the block all dynamic, yada yada yada, compile and save that. So this is going to be our Pac-Man. And what we can do now, I can go here in the blueprints and I can simply put our Pac-Man here in the game, and there you go. So this is how it is going to look like when we have our Pac-Man in our game. Now, of course, if I were to compile this, you see now, this is what we see, and this is not, basically this is not what we want to see now. So what I'm going to do is, going back over here, let me just stop this, and in our blueprints, I'm going to right click, and here we're going to create a blueprint class, and here I'm going to filter for game mode, and this is the one that we want. So game mode, click on that and click on select, and this is going to be our Pac-Man underscore game mode underscore BP. and double click this bad boy and open it, because we're going to use the event graph over here for so we're going to use, as I said, the event graph for the Pac-Man. And what I'm going to do is remove the event tick. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the camera. So the first thing that I'm going to do is set up the camera. Because if I go back now and if I hit the play button, this is what we see. And we don't want to, well, see our game like this. We want to see the game top down, and we are going to be able to play it, well, from the top down. So for that, let's go over here in our game modes. You see this over here, this right here. And where it says search classes, we're going to search for a camera. And I'm going to take that camera, I'm going to put it right here. So there you go. Let me just move up a little bit. So here is our camera actor. So we actually have two because we prepared that and I forgot that. So let's remove one, and here is our camera that we have. And if we click on the camera, you will see how I have positioned it. So the rotation X and Y is 270. The Y position is -200, and the Z position is 400. Or 4,500, excuse me. So I've already positioned that, but I forgot that I did. So yeah, there you go. But if you drag and drop a new one, these are the values that you're going to put here for the rotation and for the location. So how are we going to set this up? Well, basically we are going to go here and we're going to right click and we're going to create a new custom event. So we're going to say here custom, and you see here add custom event. So I'm going to click on that. And what I'm going to type here is I'm going to rename it. So let's rename it to set up. So set up camera. And from here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say get all actors of class. So all actors of class, which is going to get the all actors inside of our game from the type of class, and the type of the class is going to, let's click here on the type and we're going to filter and I'm going to say camera actor. So there you go. We want all actors type of camera actor, and plug this in so that this execution starts here. So we're going to get all actors. And what I'm going to do next is over here from our actors, we are simply going to type here get, and we're going to say here get a copy. And by the way, drag from here. So out all actors. Basically this is the array of all actors type of camera actor. So drag from here like this and release the button. And here in the search type get. And now we're going to click on here get copy. And there you go. We're going to get the copy which is at index 0. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say set view target. So set view, or actually we need to do it like this. So right click and we're going to say set view target. And did I type view? So it's view target. And we need to uncheck this context sensitive. We need this one. So set view target with blend. So again, uncheck this context sensitive and set view target, and we want this one, set view target with blend. And I'm going to put the execution over here. And the next step is from here, I'm going to drag and set this target, so the camera one, in here, new view target. And here for the target, we need the player controller. So I'm going to right click over here and I need to say get player controller, so controller. And here I'm going to plug in our player controller. Now here the blend time is going to be 1, and we're going to see in a moment why is that. So here I'm going to compile and save that, and there you go. Nothing else here we're going to change, so we're not going to touch anything else, as I said. And what I'm going to do over here from our event begin play, I'm simply going to call set up camera, which is our default custom event that I've just created. Basically think of it as a function, but it's an event that we can call, which when we call the set up camera over here, it is going to call this here and execute everything that we just did. So it is going to get all actors type of camera, get the current actor, actually the first actor, which is at index 0, and then we are going to set that actor as the view target for the player, you see, and we have the player controller. Now, in order for this to work, we need to go into the project settings. And if you don't see it, it's right here under edit and then project settings. So this is what we need. And after that, we need to click here under maps and modes. So click on that. And here from the default game mode, we have our game mode base. click on the drop down list, and we are going to select the Pac-Man Game Mode BP, which is the one, this bad boy over here, that we have just created. Now over here now we can fix all of these because we can now remove them. We can choose our own instead of the default pawn that we have. And if you went through my beginner Unreal Engine course, I talked about the default pawn is a default sphere. So over here from the default pawn, I'm going to select the Pac-Man BP. Player controller, we're going to leave the default one, but we are going to create a new one in the next video, so don't worry about that. And over here, I'm going to simply select our level 1. So let me just find here, level. Can I find here our level 1? Here it is, our level 1, and also here for the entry, we're going to say level 1. There you go. So we have the level 1 for the editor startup map and for the game default map. So basically what we did here, we changed our game mode to this one that we have just created, which means, and make sure that you compile and save. So everything here that we did, make sure that you click here, compile, and then save this here. So we set up this game mode, the one that we have just created, and that game mode, when it runs, when it hits the event begin play, it will call set up camera, which is going to do this over here. And here for the default pawn class, it's basically going to spawn our Pac-Man BP, and it is going to spawn our Pac-Man right here where he is currently now. And let me just remove him. And how do I know that? Well, because if I go over here, you see this is our player start. As you can see over here, this is our player start, where the player is going to start when we load our level. Let's hit the play button and see this in action. You see, bam, and here is our Pac-Man. There you go. So this is our Pac-Man, and you see this, the effect of the camera. You see this effect? This is the product of this set view target with blend, and blend time is basically the time it takes for this animation to play out. So again, let's go here, hit the play button, there you go. We have our Pac-Man, everything is yada yada yada. If something is not clear, please ask in the comment below this video, and starting from the next video, we are going to move the Pac-Man, create the controller who is going to control the Pac-Man, so on and so forth. Fire here from us.com. I will see you guys in the next video. Moving forward with our game, now we're going to start moving our Pac-Man and of course get input and steer him in the right direction. And the first thing that we're going to do is here inside of our Pac-Man set direction, we are going to set which direction we are going to take. Now, here in our begin play, we are also going to bind this function, so this on overlap begin, so we can just do it right now so we don't forget to do it later. We will need it when we create our fruits, our eatables that we can eat. So over here, simply what we need to say is on actor begin overlap that add dynamic, like this. And here we simply need to type this, comma, and the sign, and paste here the on overlap begin function. That's all there is to it. Now, as I said, I did this right now so that we don't forget to do it later. And that's all we have to do. Now here inside of the tick function is where we are going to check if we are not frozen. So notice here the exclamation mark, which makes what's after it the opposite. So if frozen is false, this will make it true. If frozen is true, this will make it false. So if we are not frozen, we are simply going to say here add movement input, and over here I'm simply going to say get actor forward vector. This is going to propel our actor, in our case the Pac-Man. It's simply going to move him in his forward vector direction. So basically where he is looking forward. So if he is looking forward this way, he is going to go this way. If he is looking forward that way, and that will depend on the rotation, which we are going to set over here in the direction. So over here, what we are going to do is we are going to test. So we are going to say if the direction, which is this parameter that's being passed, and we're going to say if that is equal to f vector, so f vector colon up, like this, which means that is forward. What we are simply going to do here, and basically we don't need two parentheses, only one. So what we are going to do over here is we are going to say set actor rotation, and here we're simply going to say f rotator. Now f rotator or rotator. So here we're going to say 0, 270 for the y, and 0 for the z. And basically we can just copy this and paste it, and here we can say else if our direction instead of up is now equal to down vector. Here instead of 270 we're going to say 90, And again, I can copy this, and here I can say else if our direction now is equal to the right, which means the right vector. Here we're going to say 0, 0, 0. And lastly over here, else if direction is equal to the left vector, we're going to say 180 here and 180 here. Now this is simply going to rotate our Pac-Man. So it is going to face him either this direction or this direction or this direction or this direction, depending on which button we have pressed. And over here, our add movement input is going to propel him forward, and if he is facing the left side, then he is going to be going forward to the left side. If he's facing the downside, he's going to go forward the downside. You get the point, yada, yada, yada. Now, what we also need to do is we need to create a controller who is going to control our Pac-Man. Now, in order to do that, we do need to go back here in our C# classes, and I need to right click and create a new one. And over here, we are going to select a controller. So do we have a controller here? Yes, we do have our player controller. So select the player controller because we want to control the pawn. Click here next, and we are going to name this bad boy Pac-Man controller. There you go. And simply click on create class, and you know the drill, we need to wait, but since we have compiled our first class already, it takes a little less time to compile the second one. So this is awkward. I mean, do you want me to sync to you, or like, I don't know, just, you know, leave me a message telling me what you want me to do while we're waiting this. I can sing to you, yada, 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 and there we go. So thank God you don't have to listen to that. So what we are going to do over here is we are going to declare, well, the variables that we need. Now, below this generated body, we're going to say protected, so protected like this. And here we are going to create our void setup input controller, or actually input component, excuse me. Parentheses, and we need to say override because this is a built-in function. We want to override it. We're also going to declare a Pac-Man pawn like this, which is a pointer, and we're going to say get Pac-Man pawn like this, and it's a constant because it's going to return a constant. Now over here, what we need to do, I'm going to remove these comments, and here I need to declare the class a Pac-Man or Pac-Man pawn, just so that we have it over here. This is forward declaration so that we can use this function over here. Now going back to here, I am also going to declare our public, so public like this. So we're going to have void move up like this, and I'm simply going to copy this. Now these are the functions that we are going to bind to inputs. So we have the move up, we are also going to have move down, we are also going to have move left and move right. I mean, which is logic, so we need to, well, move our character in all directions. So first things first, I'm going to right click over here and refactor or create a declaration for our Pac-Man pawn, then for our move up, then do the same thing for the down, left, and right. So you're simply going to do the exact same thing. So simply right click, quick actions and refactorings, and create definition of move left. There you go. Let's do it one more time over here, and we are done. Now when it comes to our setup input component, we do need to declare that on our own. So I can go over here and right here at the top, or actually below. So here I'm going to declare that and simply type here void a Pac-Man controller colon setup input component. There you go, and this is what we need to do. First things first, I'm going to declare over here, so we are going to say include, and we need to import our Pac-Man pawn. So actually Pac-Man pawn, there you go, .h. Because here we're not going to return a null pointer, instead we're going to return, and here I'm going to say cast into a Pac-Man like this, in our a Pac-Man, not controller, but a Pac-Man pawn like this. And here, who are we casting? We are casting get pawn. Now, what is this get pawn? Get pawn is going to return the pawn which is being controlled by this controller. And how do we know it's Pac-Man? Well, over here in our project settings, and here now for our player controller class, you see here, we can now select the Pac-Man controller. By default, we have the player controller. So now I'm going to click over here and I'm going to select the Pac-Man controller. And now the Pac-Man controller, because we set that up over here in our game mode, so the default controller is the Pac-Man controller, he will control the Pac-Man blueprint by default. So when we say over here get pawn, it's going to get us that pawn, so we are casting it into our Pac-Man pawn, which is going to work. Now, before we proceed to bind all these functions in our setup input component, what we are going to do is over here in our input, so go again into project settings, and over here we have input, so click on that. So click on input, and here we need to create those action mappings. So here, action mappings, I'm going to click on plus, you see over here, so we are going to have our move up, so that we can move up. Now click this 3 more times, so we are going to have move down, we're going to have move left and move right. So move left, there you go, and finally we are going to have move right. And all of these, now, instead of clicking this plus button, you're going to click plus button over here and over here and over here to select the appropriate buttons. So over here, I'm going to have the move up. We're going to press the W key and press the up key. You see? So we have the W and the up. And simply filter them. So click here plus and click here. And in the search for the down, we're going to have the S key. So for the S, let me just find it here inside of our keyboard. Here it is. Make sure that it's only S. And we are going to have the down. And here it is, keyboard. It's under keyboard. So make sure that you select the one under keyboard. You can also go like this. So move left. You can go here under keyboard. You can select the key code A. So we have A, and here keyboard, and you can select the left. There you go. And for the right, we have the D key. So over here, I'm going to simply say D. And we are going to say here right, and it's under keyboard again, so here it is, right. Now make sure that you select these appropriate ones. So we have the W, we have the up, S down. Now you can see for the move up, we have the W and up, down, S and down. Basically you get the point, like in every single game. So like in every single game, this is what we are gonna do here as well. Now we need these because over here in our setup input component, we are going to bind them. Now first, we are going to say here super colon, and we're going to call setup. So setup input component, there you go, like this. Now don't worry if it gives you, you see this red line A, class A controller has no member, yada, yada, yada. This will work. We can compile this, so Control Shift B to compile this bad boy. And you will see that this will actually work. Hoping that it will compile finally so that I don't die. And there you go. So build has succeeded. There you go. So what we need to do here below this super call to super, that is, we're going to call input component dash greater than sign, and we're going to say bind action. Now which action we want to bind. So first here I'm going to bind the move up, and we are going to bind it by calling IE pressed. What does that mean? That means when we press the button, it will detect it. So here we also need to say this, and now the function name that we want to bind to this move up, and over here we are going to pass our A Pac-Man. Now of course we need to add the and sign with A Pac-Man controller move up. So this means we're binding this move up that we have just created over here. So this move up, you see this one over here, which means when we press the W or the up key, when we press it and we denote it here, you see when it's pressed, it will call the function move up. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to copy it right now. So copy it and paste it here 3 more times. So we're going to have move down, and over here also we're going to have move down, and here it's going to be move left and move right. So move left and simply copy the name and paste it here, and over here I can say move right, paste it here, paste it here. So we are binding the move up to move up, move down to move down. Make sure that you bind the appropriate actions to appropriate functions. You don't want to bind the move down to move up, because then when you press the S key or the down key, you will call the move down function. And same for all other functions, the explanation is the same. So when we press, for example, the A or the left key, for the move left, we have bind the move left, which we'll call this function over here. So what we are going to do here is simply, so here we can test if we do have our Pac-Man pawn. So we can say something like, if our get Pac-Man pawn is not equal to null PTR, so null PTR like this. You can also simply type if get pawn is not equal to null PTR, so you can do it like that as well. And then over here we can say get Pac-Man dash greater than sign, we can say set direction. And over here for the direction we can say f vector colon, so colon up vector. There you go. So when we press the move up, we're going to call the up vector. When we press move down, you can simply copy this and paste it over here. And here you can imagine we're going to call the move down vector. Below here, you can again paste it, get Pac-Man pawn, set direction instead of up, we're going to say left vector. And going back over here, we are going to paste it one more time. And this one is move right or the right vector. Control Shift B to compile this, so make sure that you compile it. And let's wait for it to compile, yada yada yada. Come on, compile, compile, compile. There you go. It has compiled. So now what we need to do? Well, if we go back now and if we test it out, so if I hit the play button, here is our Pac-Man, but we cannot move him. I can control him. You see, if I press down, he is facing down. If I press up, you can see that he's being rotated. If I eject here and if I come close, you see, so he is now facing up. If I press the right, you can see now that he is rotating, which is cool. And what's happening is here inside, when we press these buttons, we are calling set direction, passing here the up, down, left. And we know in our Pac-Man pawn, if the direction is equal to vector up, then we're going to simply rotate him in the up direction. Then here, down direction, you get the point. We have already explained this. And over here, this is the problem why we are not moving. So over here, if we are not frozen, we are calling add movement input and passing the get actor or get actor forward. So forward vector from the actor. Now, the issue here is the following, is that we are not setting our Pac-Man, so he's not moving. We are not setting frozen. It's set to true. You see over here, we set the frozen to be equal to true. And we are testing here if we are not frozen. The exclamation mark will make it the opposite. So if frozen, that means he will be the opposite. Currently it's true, which means it's false, and this right here is not being called. How can we fix that? Well, over here inside of our gameplay, you see here in the begin play, we're calling to set up the camera. What we can do next is over here, we can call the delay function to delay 2 seconds. I'm going to delay 2 seconds. And after that, what I'm going to do, let me just move this down. So what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to say over here, cast to Pac-Man BP. And who am I casting? So over here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say get player pawn. So the player pawn, and we are going to cast him into the Pac-Man pawn. Now, who is the player pawn? Well, over here, we set the player pawn in our game modes. Let me just go here and find it, maps and modes. We set the player pawn to be the Pac-Man BP. So when we call here get player pawn, we're going to get him and we are going to cast him into the Pac-Man pawn. And from here, we're going to say set frozen. And we are going to set the target. So from here, set the target and set frozen value to be equal to false. Now compile and save this. So make sure that you compile and save this. Now, going back over here in our Pac-Man pawn, you see here set frozen, you see? Set direction, this is the set frozen. We set it to be blueprint callable. That's the reason why we can call it here. We can call it from here, set frozen. If we didn't do it like that, so if we did not do it like that, then we would not be able to call it. So here we set it blueprint callable and we simply set the value, which is this value over here. You see, this is the value. If we check it to be true, we will set here frozen equal to that value. If we check it to be false or uncheck it, which means it's false, we'll set the frozen to be equal to that value. So now when we run our game after 2 seconds, over here we will cast the player pawn to Pac-Man pawn, set the frozen. So make sure that you compile and save this. So here, compile and then save if you want this to work. So if I hit the play button, now our Pac-Man is gonna start moving. You see, he is moving. Now, the issue that I have here is the Pac-Man is moving very fast, which is not something that I want. So what we can simply do is we can go here in our Pac-Man blueprint, select the floating pawn movement, and over here for the maximum speed, I can set that to be 800, and the acceleration can be, I don't know, 1,600, and make sure that you compile and save that. So make sure that you compile and save it. If I go back now and hit the play button, so after 2 seconds now our Pac-Man is gonna start moving. You see he's moving now slower, but he is moving. You see this works and our Pac-Man is moving. So there you go. So this is how we are controlling our Pac-Man with the player controller, and also this is how we bind our functions. We already explained that, and we're using a pretty cool approach to create all of this that we just saw. If something is not clear, please ask in the comment below the video. Until then, fire here from usdudes.com. I'll see you guys in the next video. Moving forward with our game, now we're going to create the foodie, as I call it, or the thing, the circle, the how I want to call it, what Pac-Man eats. And that starts here in our C++ classes. So right click here, new C++ class, and we're going to create one from the actor. So we're going to inherit an actor, and over here, I'm going to simply call it, I don't know, foodie. So Foodie. Very clever, very creative. That's how I am. Nobody's better in that than me. And I'm just kidding, of course. But let me just sing to yada 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 while we are waiting for this, of course. Yada 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 yada. There you go. So now we are going to go here inside of our foodie, and we are going to declare a couple of things. The first thing that we are going to declare is over here. I'm going to say enum class, and I'm going to call this one foodie type. So it's a foodie type enum class, and we're going to say int8. So, well, that is the type of it. And over here at the top, we are also going to say enum or enum, and in parentheses, you are going to say here blueprint type so that we can access it inside of our blueprint. Now, what is an enum? Well, basically an enumerator allows us to declare whatever we want here. So for example, I can say here like regular, and I can say here power up. I can also say here Carl, for example, Kenny, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. Now we can use this in comparison. When I say in comparison, we can use this to compare, for example, if our foodie is equal to regular or power up. So if it's a regular, we just pick it up. If it's power up, we give power up to the player. Now, you can use this for different types. You can use this for weapons, for example. So you can, check later on, for example, if your character is equipped with a sword, with a gun, with a rifle, you see where this is going. Now below here and above the U class declaration, I'm also going to declare something called, so here we're going to say declare underscore dynamic underscore multicast delegate. So delegate, and here we're not going to say 6 params, but we're going to say 1 param. There you go, 1 param. And in parentheses here, we are going to type f foodie, so foodie eaten event, comma, foodie type, comma, foodie type. There we go. Now, what the hell is this? Now, this is a delegate that will have a foodie type as a parameter. Now, what is a delegate? Well, a delegate, and did I type here something wrong? No, I did not. Everything is okay. Don't worry about this red line below here. Don't worry about it. It will work. Now, what is a delegate? Think of a delegate as a subscription service. So for example, this is a delegate, and whoever subscribes to this delegate, let's say we have 3 functions that have subscribed to this delegate, then when we call this delegate or the event from this delegate, it will inform all 3 of these that we have subscribed to it. Now, if you want more explanation, I have explanation in delegates when it comes to Unity and C#, but exactly the same concept applies to delegates in C++. So if you want that video, please comment below and I will put the link or give you the link to that video. It's on my YouTube channel. But basically, as I said, think of a delegate. Let's say the delegate is a newsletter and we subscribe to the newsletter. Let's say we have 10 people. I know here we have 5 people who have subscribed to the newsletter. So whenever a new edition of the newsletter comes out, it will inform all the people who have subscribed to it. So it works the same way. But instead of people subscribing to the newsletter, we have function subscribing to the event over here. That's what is happening. So let's go over here inside of our, or below this tick here, and we are going to do what? We are going to create a function called void consume, like this, consume, or consume, however you want to call it. We are also going to say here uProperty, and here I'm going to say edit anywhere. Now this uProperty is going to be foodie type, like this, and I'm going to call it foodie type, and by default I'm going to say foodie type and colon regular. So by default our foodie type that we create is going to be regular. Of course we can change it because I set it to be edit anywhere, which means we can change it from the blueprint itself. I'm also going to say here uProperty, and here in parentheses we're going to create one with blueprint assignable, comma, with blueprint callable, which means we can assign it inside of a blueprint and we can call it from within a blueprint. And here we're going to say foodie, so foodie eaten event, so foodie, not, what am I doing over here? Let me just take this foodie eaten event. So we are declaring foodie eaten event, and I'm going to call it foodie eaten event. There you go. So we have declared our delegate for our foodie eaten event, and over here we're going to have a private one, so a private variable. Now this is that event that we are going to subscribe to. So when we subscribe to that event, when we call it later on, well, then we are going to inform every single function that has subscribed to this event. Now over here I'm also going to create one with edit anywhere. So here I'm going to say uProperty edit anywhere, and this is going to be uSoundQ, which is a pointer. I'm going to call this one consumption sound. There you go. Now we do need to forward declare this one. So over here at the top we need to say here class, like this, uSoundQ, because as I said we need to forward declare it. Now also for this consume, I'm going to right click and quick actions and refactoring. I'm going to, as you see, I am going to declare it. So over here in our foodie.cpp, what we are going to do, first things first, at the top, I'm going to say here include, because we want to include some libraries, which one of those is Kismet, and we want gameplay statics. There you go. And another one is include, and here we want the sound /sound cue. There you go, because we want to play the sound. And simply, we're not going to do anything else over here, but here in our consume, what we are going to do is we are going to call the gameplay statics, colon, and we're going to play sound 2D. And from this, so from with this class, targeting this class, and we want to call consumption sound. There you go. After we play the sound, we want to call the foodie eaten event. So foodie eaten event dot broadcast. There you go. And here we are going to broadcast the foodie type. And the last step is to call destroy. There you go. So destroy, to destroy this foodie type. Now, let me first compile and save this. So Control-Shift-B to compile. Make sure that we don't have any oopsies, that I didn't do anything that's illegal, so that you don't have to kill me. And, well, where you go? There you go. We have failed. Now, blueprint assignable. Let me just go over here. Blueprint assignable is only allowed on multicast delegates. Let's check over here. What did we do? So here, declare dynamic delegate, and I think I typed dynamic multicast, and yeah, there you go. So dynamic and underscore here, and here we need to say multicast. There you go. So it's declare dynamic multicast delegate. So when I typed over here, when I typed declare dynamic, yada, 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 I checked the ones that, or I clicked on ones that were provided to me as autocomplete, and apparently I missed this multicast. So let's try it again. So Control-Shift-B to compile this. Let's wait for it a moment or two to compile. Come on, yada, yada, yada. And there you go. Build has succeeded. So do not worry that you have this red line over here. You even have red lines on comments. Sometimes, it's like that. Unreal Engine and the connection between Unreal Engine and between Visual Studio is crazy. So you get the point. You see what's going on. So what's happening here? Now, I've explain what we have here. I've explained what is a delegate. In a moment or two, we will see it. Later on, we will see how it works. Don't worry about that. But over here, we have the U property A or E foodie type. So this is our foodie type. We have the event that we are using over here to broadcast, and we're passing the foodie type. Now, why we're passing it? Because over here, we declare that we are going to have the foodie type, which is our parameter. So we will see later on what we are going to do, but here in our consume, we are going to play the sound when we call this function, then we're going to broadcast the event, and then we're going to destroy our foodie. Now, before we do that, let's go over here, and inside of our blueprints, I'm going to right click, and we are going to create our foodie. So from here, search for foodie actor. There you go. Select it, and I'm going to call this one foodie underscore regular. So regular underscore BP. And let's go inside. So as you can see here, I'm going to say set it to regular. Now here for the consumption sound, we are going to click on the drop down list, and we're going to filter for eat regular Q. There you go. So this is our sound, eat regular Q. Now, when it comes to everything else here, we're not going to touch anything because we are not interested in that. But what we are going to do is over here, we are going to go under add component and filter for a static mesh. There you go. Now, this static mesh, I'm simply going to call it sphere like this, and we can compile and save this. Now, from here, we are going to filter inside of the static mesh over here, because this is going to give it appearance, and we're going to filter here sphere, and there you go. So select this sphere, and this is the one that we want. And here for the element or for the materials, click on the drop down list, and here filter for foodie. So foodie, and we want the foodie regular. There you go. Compile and save that. Now, we're still not done, because what I want to do here is make sure that the lock here is locked and set the scale to 0.3 for the foodie. Compile and save. Now, what we are also going to do here is we are going to disable the gravity. So enable gravity, uncheck that checkbox. And over here for our collision, now for the collision preset, instead of block dynamic, I'm simply going to select overlap all and make sure that the generate overlap events is checked, and compile and save that. There you go. This is all we have to do. Now, of course, we do need to also import this here. So I can go here in the level. I can put it somewhere here. Now, let me just take the Z axis, set it at 0. Let me zoom here just a little bit. So zoom it. Our Pac-Man is spawned over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this foodie, and I'm going to put the foodie over here. So this foodie is going to be over here. And now in order for us to collect it, because if I hit the play button now, here is our Pac-Man, there is the foodie. I can go over here. You see, I just passed the foodie, nothing happens. But what we need to do is go over here in our Pacman.cpp file, because here we have called on actor begin overlap. And over here we have, well, bind with the on overlap begin. And what's going to happen over here, we have two parameters that we can check. We have the other actor, which is the actor that we have overlapped with. So we have overlap with that actor. Here we are going to say if our other actor dash greater than sign actor has tag, and here we can test for the tag that we want. Now the tag is going to be, I'm going to say here foodie.regular, so .regular. Now in order for this to work, we do need to take this tag, so copy this name, go back here inside of our foodie regular, click on the top parent, so this over here, and here we are going to filter for the actor, you see this here, and click on this drop down list. So click it, and here now for the tags you have the array elements. Click on the plus button, so let's click the plus button, and here for the none, paste the foodie regular. Compile and save that. So make sure that you click here, compile, and then save. If you don't click compile and save, it will not work. So make sure that you click compile and save. So compile and save. Now, as I said, over here we have the foodie.regular. So what's gonna happen now is that over here we are calling foodie regular, and then after that we can call the consume function. Now, in order to call the consume function, we do need to go here on top and we need to say include, and here we need to say foodie, there you go, .h file. So we need to include it inside of our pacman CPP if we want to call here consume. So now what we can do is because if this actor has a tag foodie regular and we just added that tag here to the foodie, we know it's a foodie. So what we can do is we can cast it. So we can say cast. So I can say here cast, and I'm casting here into the a foodie. So cast it in a foodie, and I'm casting the other actor, and now I can simply say dash greater than sign consume, and there you go. So again, if our other actor that we have collided with has a tag foodie regular and we just added that tag to the foodie, we are going to cast it in a foodie so that we can use the consume function and call it, which in terms is going to call this, it's going to play the 2D sound that we have attached, it's going to broadcast the event, and it's going to destroy the foodie. So it's going to destroy the foodie. So if we compile this first, so Control-Shift-B to compile it, because if we don't compile it, it is not going to work. So first things first, you need to compile it. And let's make sure that we don't have any oopsies. Build has succeeded. We don't have oopsies. Let's go back. And now when we collide with our foodie, we should see disappear and we should see or hear the sound. So if I hit the play button, let's wait for my Pac-Man. So now look at it. And bam, we have collected the foodie. And again, let me just raise my volume and hit the play button again so that we can hear the collect sound. There you go. So you hear that. And we see that this works. Now, the last thing that is left for us to do is that we need to distribute all these foodies in the level. Now, what you can do, it's time consuming for you to watch me do that. But basically, you have one foodie. First things first, over here in the level. Same as what we did for our pawns over here. Actually, I did that on my own. But what I'm going to do is select the level and right click on it and create a folder. And here we're going to say foodies. And drag and drop this foodie regular inside of that folder. So this is just for organization purposes. So now what we are going to do is simply, let's position this foodie here. And holding Alt. So holding Alt on your keyboard, move it, it's gonna duplicate it, and you see it's gonna position another foodie. So do the same thing here, same thing here. You see what I mean? So let's go over here. Let's move just this one like this a little bit here. And you don't have to be perfect, like they don't have to be like 10 units away from each other. So you don't have to be bothered by that, because that will not teach you anything. So we're here to learn. It will not teach you anything, but basically there you go. This is what we need to do. So like this, drag them on the whole level. So you see, simply dragging them like this. Make sure that they're Z